Hello, welcome to Ledgercast. My name is Brian Crossguard, here with Josh Allswitch. Hey, Josh.
Mr. Brian, good to be with you. Standing up today. Literally.
You're standing up?
I'm standing up, yeah.
Wow.
Feels good.
You look like you're sitting. It's very deceiving.
Gotta say, the metaverse is quite something, you know?
You're on video today. We're on video today. The market it's done nothing if you just look at the price from last week, but it's gone both directions several times, just chopping everybody up, myself included. And that's just what it is. There's some news out in the world, but we're happy to be here with everyone listening, watching, whatever.
That was your chance to say y'all. Really lean into the y'all, you know?
Sorry, I forgot. Well, how you doing?
Good. What do you want to start with? You want to start with news or you want to start with price?
The price of Bitcoin today is $39,200. Last week, it was somewhere in that same realm. There was a 10 or 15% bounce up, and then it fully retraced, and then it started to go up again, and then it fully retraced, and we're back to where we were a week ago. Let's now get to the news.
Well, we had the EO too, the Biden EO, I guess.
Yeah. Let's start with the executive order. What's going on there?
Well, I don't know if you read it, but...
Naturally did not.
Did you read the fact sheet though? Should we pull up the fact sheet?
I did. We should pull up the fact sheet.
I don't think I could find the actual executive order. I saw the fact sheet, but anyway.
You know what I like about those is they're always like the orders themselves are like, here's like 7 words per line, and it makes it a very long document, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the bills and executive orders and stuff. Before you get to the full fact sheet, the takeaway appeared to be that it was not as bad as some feared, which is also strange because they kind of laid out what it was going to be before it even came out. So no surprises was a good thing. The market liked that.
Yes, it liked certainty. It liked clarity, at least. You know, this isn't exactly like crystal clear certainty, but there's not a question as far as what's going to be in it at this point.
Yeah, and to clarify for the chat, no, this is not the $1.5 trillion spending bill. This was an executive order from Joe Biden's office where they basically just directed various parts of the government to establish clarity, right? Like they kind of said, go figure this stuff out. But
yeah,
Josh has a whole fact sheet that's going to be more specific.
Well, thanks to the White House. Protect consumers, that's pretty obvious. I think that's top of mind for lots of investors. They try to keep us away from a Bitcoin ETF. Can't say that. Compliance reasons, spot ETF, whatever. Protect the U.S. for global financial stability. Again, this is the thing that hit me about the stablecoin hearing is they were so concerned that like stablecoins were going to take this whole thing down. The senators and representatives that were concerned, that was their big concern. Like, this is going to be '08 all over again. Like, I don't think it's quite that big. I mean, it could get that big, but you know, I don't really see that. They were talking about run risk and
you mean for just global, like for stability in the financial sector.
Yeah, stability in the financial sector. Yeah, it's like clean up your own house first. But yeah, they're like, you know, Tether can bring down the whole kit and caboodle of financial markets because XYZ reason.
You know, I was reading, rereading Ray Dalio's book about big debt crises. One of the sections of it was how late in the cycle the market essentially creates new ways of like lending new financial products that are innovative but dangerous. And it did kind of remind me of the way kind of crypto and DeFi work with, you know, stablecoins and borrowing and lending. And I think that's probably on the mind of some people in office of trying to think through like, okay, well, you know, this is cool, but you know, there could be risks in here that we don't understand. So I kind of see where they're coming from, I guess, even if I disagree with it being a problem.
I mean, this protection stuff goes hand in hand. That's just part of like, you know, what government says they're doing, right?
Yeah.
As with this as well, mitigating illicit finance. That's what we've been hearing about over the past, 2 weeks now. I don't know.
I do think it's rich that payday lending can still exist and they're worried about stablecoins.
Yeah. Yeah. That and, Elizabeth Warren's worried about sanction evaders. And there's like so many other things that we could be focused on, but that's just this repeated narrative over and over again. Just doesn't make sense. And if there's any sanction evasion, you can see it pretty easily, especially if it's in high quantity. There are chain analysts just seething at the mouth, waiting to find, the smoking gun of the oligarch cashing out in crypto, right? Well, so that they can get their government scalp of
they control hundreds of billions of dollars, and the increase of like Russian, what is it, the ruble, and crypto trading, it was like it doubled from 15 million to 30 million or something silly like that. So it seemed much more retail citizenry led versus oligarchs cashing out.
Yeah, and normal people, no matter who you are, in Iran, North Korea, I don't care. Like if you're trying to figure out how to save money, and Bitcoin's an option for you, or crypto in general, then what are you going to do? You're just going to let your savings wither away to zero, or are you going to actually take action? Yeah. So I don't blame any of those people for doing what they're doing.
If I was in Russia and had access to get my cash into crypto, I would have done it.
Yeah, of course. Promote U.S. leadership. This is a big one that you hear from the pro crypto people in the House and Senate. They say, look, this is a new technology. We need to take action. And being at the forefront here, we can't let China take over. We want the U.S. to be leader, even in stablecoins, to keep the dollar dominance strong. That's a great argument for the pro side.
And I think that's the truest, personally. Like running a company in the U.S., there are certain things that we have to stay away from purely because there's not clarity from regulators in the U.S. about what we can do and what we can't do in terms of interacting with crypto.
Yeah, options is a big one. Options markets just comes to mind, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lending as well, DeFi in general.
Right. I'm just thinking of like on-chain interactions, with customers.
Yeah. Yeah. Promote equitable access to safe and affordable financial services, which is kind of why Bitcoin
does
and crypto was incepted or birthed, right? Yeah. So this just goes hand in hand with crypto again. Support advances and ensure responsible development and use of digital assets. I don't really know what that means exactly, but it seems like a repetitive point based on the first three, just protecting investors.
It feels like their way of seeding the point about enabling, innovation that you were saying the pro crypto people want, right? Like that's their way of saying it in a risk measured way.
Yeah, part of this reads like the lobbyists who needed to get to this got to this, and it wasn't like all Elizabeth Warren voice in there. It was like somewhat of a measured and okay take on things, and then explore U.S. CBDC. That's going to be a disaster, but
that's the big one out of all of it. Like that's where the real difference makers will be, because I don't know. Is that integrated with stablecoin networks? Is it its own stablecoin? What kind of controls does it have? That
Paulo. I'm just going to bring up Paulo's Tether fame. He did a thread on stablecoins versus CBDCs. I think they can definitely coexist. The CBDC people are going to tell you, all stablecoins are bad. They're terrible. They're only for the worst kinds of people. Blah blah blah. Right. And he just goes through it and says X, Y, and Z reason why CBDCs are different than stablecoins. I think the centralization piece, the fact that it's even more centralized than stablecoins. Stablecoins aren't decentralized on the most, on balance for the most part. Some are, some aren't.
I like that about CBDCs not like existing everywhere. So stablecoins will certainly serve the purpose of spreading out to the various chains where innovation is occurring, where users want to be, et cetera. And the CBDC is going to move super slow, I'm sure. Maybe the CBDC is the settlement layer for stablecoins. That would be interesting, right? Like if Tether does not have to establish its own backing, but it is backed via the CBDC infrastructure, I could get on board more with that, I think, even though I don't like the control or like the ability to just freeze those assets. That's kind of a reality when you're dealing with stable coins, right? Like if you don't want that, you should own Bitcoin,
yeah, but that's
because even Tether and USDC can freeze assets.
Correct. And that's part of the centralization piece. CBDCs go a little further than stables because they can limit where you can spend.
Yeah.
They can add on.
You can't spend more than $10,000.
Right. Certain stipulations, they'll track things, connect it to everything else. Most likely, a lot of us imagine the most nefarious things possible because it's already happening to some degree in China with the social credit system connection and just general surveillance. And a lot of that's already happening in crypto anyway. Like, I don't know if people realize this, but again, the chain analysis, whatever.
Chain analysis.
I'm just trying not to say chain analysis. Those companies are already looking at
the
everything.
Chain analysts.
The chain analysts, yes. They're already looking at everything. Okay, you have independent people looking at everything all the time. Virtually nothing is private. To say that even Monero, like I even hesitate to say Monero is fully private anymore. Obviously, the on-ramp and off-ramps aren't. It hasn't been cracked explicitly, but...
Wasn't there somebody in Laura Shin's...
Zcash definitely is not, by the way.
Laura Shin's book, where she talked about the Ethereum DAO hacker guy.
He's Grin and a bunch of other stuff, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, but like there was chain analysis involved with that previously people did not think it was as simple to track down, and they did some, stuff that was people were aware of, but that it was pretty thorough in terms of how they did that chain analysis and turned it into, helping verify this identity. So the degree to which you have to cover your tracks to actually be anonymous in crypto is severe. Like you have to just nail it. And most people won't.
I think you and I both know people who have been in crypto longer than both of us and have coins in places that they just won't touch, right? For whatever reason, because they know the moment they do, they get labeled as X, Y, and Z, right? And that's any crypto. So as nefarious as the CBDC thing is with surveillance, it's like, well, it's kind of already here with crypto.
Surveillance, but they don't have control, I guess.
Right. They don't have control. Yeah. Right. And, we saw that with the Canada stuff as well. Yeah. The on-ramps and off-ramps are always the weak points.
So that's the CBDC, and overall it was a bit of a nothing burger, but hopefully will turn into U.S. legal clarity or regulatory clarity for people that work in crypto, use crypto, invest in crypto, which would be nice. Let's take that kind of Tether-ish argument and switch over to the news about some hedge fund shorting Tether to the tune of what, $4 billion or something ridiculous? How much did they say?
I don't know. I don't think they did. I just heard that the hedge fund is $4 billion.
Okay.
Well, or something. I don't know.
But, some large hedge fund or sizable hedge fund is trying to short Tether, and it's not going to go well for them.
I feel like you're better off shorting Bitfinex. Like if you think Tether is going to go under, why wouldn't you just try to short Bitfinex? I don't know. It's just a weird situation. Like, okay. Again, I'd like to know the terms of like, what's their take profit, right? Like 0 or like full collapse of Bitfinex and Tether and Leo and everything connected with that. I don't know. It's just a bizarre. I think the TradFi people look at this and think like, oh, Tether's a scam. It's awful. We don't know the reserves, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, they've been here every day that they're here longer than the day before. They get an increase in like anti-fragility. And that isn't to say they can't explode, but.
Yeah. Jeff Dorman wrote about hedge funds shorting Tether back in 2021. and he, I guess, had expressed that it's a great trade setup, almost assuredly will not work. Hedge funds do things with asymmetric payoffs all the time. So I guess the point is, if it just stays at 1, no big deal. But if it breaks and goes down a lot, then they do very well. And so he thinks it's just that. I wonder how long they can actually hold such a thing if they're going to have realized losses, in terms of having to pay funding or something on that loan.
Yeah, Fit Russ in the chat asks, how do they lose money on a short? Which is a good question, but if you get targeted with like it's a crowded trade, or the GME example, the nickel example, there are plenty of examples of this stuff where seemingly stable prices or prices that you don't think are even possible still happen from time to time.
If you anticipate that Tether is going to go down, but instead somehow market participants force it to go up just to make you mad, you could lose. And if those market forces have enough control and capacity, then that is possible in a world where nickel can go up 200% a day. And yeah, I mean, that's a short squeeze gone on. And they rolled back the chain on that nickel trade. I don't know. That's actually big news. I read something yesterday that was interesting.
Not only did they roll it back, but they kept it closed for several days. It still might be closed, just so the prices would come back down, and so that this guy wouldn't have to pay his $8 to $12 trillion margin call. It's absurd.
Yeah,
Why would you ever trade there ever again?
Jim Bianco from BiancoResearch.eth. Shout out Jim Bianco. He wrote about how disturbing it is because the entities in control froze the accounts, froze the trades, rolled back the trades of people who rightfully saw the potential for this squeeze, made money on it, and now they've not made money on it to protect this person who goes by the nickname Big Shot, which is funny. That's what this nickel shorter, that's what their nickname translates to. So
he was quite literally too big to fail.
Yes. Not.
And what Bianco says in there too is that they're afraid to open the markets, not only because of the margin call, but because this guy wants to re-short, and there's going to be this disequilibrium again, and it's going to happen again. So anyway, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I just it's interesting because it's not like they provided his margin collateral or something. They took the trades away from the people on the other side of the trade. All the ways you can lose in markets to then win and get it stolen from you
and still lose. Yeah.
I would not want to participate in that market anymore.
No.
And I think that's kind of where Jim Bianco's point comes from.
Somebody else in the comments that I was reading that last night too goes on to say that the nickel that the producer is short on, that the company that he produces is different than the nickel that is deliverable at the LME. So
they don't even have the physical to pony up.
Right. They can't even pay the margin call or whatever in physical. Yes, that's fun. Wheat, oil, all these commodities are all over the place this week.
Yeah. I do. Before we dig into, crypto charts, which we always do, we might as well look at some commodities charts and stuff, because that's, honestly, it's driving the market. So what we're seeing right now is the price of oil. I think it's just kind of confirming this $100 level that goes back, it was the ceiling from April 2011 until that consolidation broke down June 2014. By the way, if you were back in these times, would you have not been incredibly bullish oil in this moment? You're looking at this massive consolidation and you're like, well, the era above $100 oil begins again. And post recession, and then it just absolutely tanked. So that's
it's a good segue to later for BTC's ascending triangle, but that is definitely an ascending triangle.
Right. You and I know for a fact, if we were talking in 2014 on this podcast, we'd be like, can't wait to long this above 110 and take it to 200.
I'm sure there are even videos of me talking about oil in my YouTube channel way back when, looking at that potentially and saying, Anyway, but yeah, no, it looked good.
But now that's kind of the same levels it's battling again. It is possible. It's possible that is some kind of massive liquidity spike, and then it goes into purgatory. I personally just don't think that's going to be the case. The way the world is shaping up, I personally think the era of $100 plus oil is upon us, and it will be. Maybe it'll range between 100 and 150 for a while or something like that. But I think we easily could go to 200 plus. And I don't think it's just Russia and Ukraine stuff in the way. It's pure market dynamics. There's not enough production. We've talked about this a lot. Unfortunately, I was very bullish back in the 70s and just didn't do anything because there's not a lot of great ways to express that trade. But that would have been a much better use of my time over the past 3 months than trying to play crypto. So yeah, that's oil, but it's not alone either, is it? And that it's going to affect many, many things. Copper, similarly.
Well, other people have said this. Other people have said this, that the powers that be are going to blame all this on the war, when in actuality it was already headed this direction because of inflation anyway.
Right.
Which they're also going to blame on the war.
Yeah.
And it was already headed that way, right? We talked about this cup and handle on gold for weeks, months, maybe.
Yeah. It's so easy to be a skeptic, be turned into a skeptic when you see things being manipulated in that way. Like you take something that occurred in the world and then you blame it on things that are really occurring because of your bad decision making along the way. And that's multi-party, multi-administration, it's multi-country, it's not even just the US. But yeah, so like all of these decisions that we've made in the world have led to this environment where I think the outcome might end up being more stagflation-esque than like pure inflation, because we're seeing how inflation is creating all of these ripple effects in the market that are problematic. Another thing from Ray Dalio's book was talking about how you combine some of these various factors with a circumstance where the government does not have the capacity to use the tools it normally would use, such as lowering rates. So when that occurs, when the economy then needs to be able to lower rates, they don't have those tools in their tool belt. It sets up for a more prolonged and more painful correction alongside using other tools like direct stimulus rather than rates in order to try to accommodate for a problem, which then can lead into a kind of rapid, both deflationary then inflationary, recessionary environment, whether or not you have the global reserve currency. And I was like, what year did he write this? Is this like a current market outlook? It was very good book. Recommend everyone to read it. Yeah.
Sounds quite prescient for the times currently. Stuff like I was trying to pull up like BCOM or USCI, some of these indices for people who don't look at commodities. I certainly didn't until very recently, but those are some things you can follow as an index to just see what's going on in that regard.
Kim in the chat said I have a Ray Dalio tattoo on my inner thigh, which I will neither confirm nor deny. And Crypto Wizards, it's a bear market when crypto influencers go macro experts. I don't like the name crypto influencer. However, Josh and I have been paying attention to all markets since we got into crypto, or before. It's partly why we got into crypto. So get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. I don't care. We even though we may not talk about this stuff visibly all the time, we certainly look at it, and that way, when we do talk about it, we sort of understand it on a simple level, at the very least. In my case, I don't know, but we talk about the DXY all the time. We talk about a lot of this stuff all the time.
We try to learn, try to use all markets to our advantage as part of our process.
Yeah.
So you want to tell me about BTC? It looks like trash to me.
Really? Like, it's looked worse,
I'm always susceptible to getting chopped up though, so.
Every day we don't make a lower low is just a win in this nonsense, right? Like, think of all the bad news we've had.
Yeah.
What could make it worse? And would that affect price? Like, what bad news is left?
Yeah.
Nuclear war? Like a nuclear war, then we're all just, it's over, right? Like, who cares, right? But
The trade is asymmetric to the long side because the downside is we're all gone.
I'm just saying, like what else?
Yeah, I saw
Like
I saw a hedge fund report that was basically exactly that. Like, long stocks because if the war ends, it goes up. If the war doesn't end, we're dead. And I was like, man, surely there's some gray area in the middle there.
yeah, it's not the greatest outcome to think about, certainly.
Yeah. So you're looking at this consolidation and just not seeing much, I guess.
As long as we're still in this range, everything's fine, right? It was almost it's reminiscent, it's eerily reminiscent of this 2018 consolidation, which ended up being mega doom very quickly. And we could certainly see that, right? It's always an option when you're consolidating like this without a clear directionality. You could say, well, this looks bearish, blah, blah, blah. It's below the 200, it's below the cloud, whatever, trend wise. But if you zoom way out, it's done really a bunch of nothing,
Yeah.
Like what was this year's open even? We've got to be close to that.
Probably.
We're almost back to the open,
My beef with it is just I am not in a place where I want to tolerate a 20 to 30% down move in my portfolio. So the risk of exposure is too high without clarity because the upside is not compensatory enough for the potential downside, right? Like the 20, 30% down, I would want 100% plus to the upside to be logical. And I don't see that. I see 50K as pretty significant resistance, for example. So the risk reward is not ideal for me. And I've been trying to play it anyway still, but I'm basically playing very low time frame rather than very high time frame.
Yeah, I don't think it's screaming a trade right now, but the cloud stuff certainly looks decent as a setup coming into Q2. A lot of people talking about this short spike on Finex overnight, and then you have to really squint to see it, but it's there. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I think I have to go way higher than that. It's certainly not as high as it was.
I cannot believe that's what people were talking about. Can you?
I mean, that's a sign.
Can you maximize that?
That's a sign of
like I literally have to get closer to the screen to see.
That's a sign of the market when there's nothing going on, right? People are just
people were
looking.
Like, shorts are adding. Oh
no. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it's definitely gone higher and likely needs to go higher before it has like a massive effect. But longs also adding here, which I didn't see many people talking about, but longs have just been continuously adding. That to me is more of a problem than
open interest adding.
Shorts.
Just open interest adding in general while you're compressing is scary because it means your move's going to be bigger.
And that's how you get explosions out of consolidation, exactly in places like this where you see open interest rising on nothing really, right? Price wise.
Right.
But yeah, the cloud, I think the ascending triangle is still there. This may break down because of factors that are externalities outside of our control. I don't know, but this is how I'm going to trade it. Looks okay to me. I'm not in a hurry or a rush to get into this edge to edge cloud trade so much as I'm just watching this ascending triangle play out. The 200-day moving average is basically at the same level as the horizontal resistance of that pattern. So I don't know. There's some confluence there.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
I agree with you. It's all the stuff I saw as a justification for being long. We just keep losing the levels that I care about, which is my problem. So if I go down to a daily, I put both the cloud and moving average here because there's a ton of confluence between them. So this concerns me, right? Tinkin Keishan 20-day moving average. This is what I was optimistic for, is this stuff up here, in terms of just kind of figuring out what's possible. So I think if we break out to the upside, you can certainly look towards 48 to 50K. But the fact that we keep losing these like faster moving averages and stuff down here, it concerns me. One thing that crypto, you and your Magic Cloud systems, they love to walk through these like weird gaps, so I could totally see something like that. But I'm not going to get excited until we act. Bless you.
Sorry.
That was a quality attempt at holding that in. We need to clear, in my mind, we really need to make a higher high. We failed to do it even with that one.
Yeah, but like, what's the rush, right? We're not making lower lows, and that's more important to me. That's why I don't mind like going up 10% one day and down 8% the next day. Like, okay.
Yeah, I could just imagine we keep doing this, to your point.
Like then, nickel went up, what, 200% overnight? This is nothing. This is peanuts. This is playground, child's play.
But I think you could get all the way until the end of March and April. And, we love doing these moves around tax season, and just wait for the trade then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not
just
screaming
pictures on a chart, but this is what I do. I draw pictures on charts.
It's not screaming to do anything right now, right?
Yeah.
It's not screaming, go short here right now. It's not screaming, go long here right now. It's screaming, yeah, this is consolidation. It's chop. It's similar chop to what it was May, June, July. This has been a choppy area historically. There's been a lot of equilibrium, I guess you could say, between supply and demand. Just look at this volume profile. It's massive, which is why if we go below this, people start to get concerned. That's just looking at this range again. Like, it's the same thing all over and over again. But
yeah,
I look at this range and I'm thinking, yeah, we go lower, it's probably 1820, right?
I just hate the chop. If it trends one way or the other, that's fine. I just hate the chop. I would like to see a resolution to the chop.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, ETH BTC, I was just randomly looking at Link BTC the other day because I saw Johnny Moe's like 2021 post saying Link's never going to be in the top 5 again, and all the people giving him crap for it. Yeah.
Now it's down 30 spots or something.
I had talked about this head and shoulders on Link BTC, and it looked like it was going to play out. Didn't technically cancel it because it didn't get above the right shoulder, and now it's just anyway, just funny because Link USD is in a bit of a pickle here for sure. A lot of DeFi anything is just kind of not doing so hot. Definitely feels like layer 1 season. Luna, AVAX, Matic maybe.
It's getting heavier. Atom had held up really well, but when I look at the Atom chart, it looks like it's just dying to retrace now. Like, if you're up on this and the whole market is chopping or getting kind of wrecked, like, doesn't that seem like a potential outcome? Even if it's not fast, just kind of slowly mean revert back. Seems likely to me.
I mean, it's just, there's so much chop. It's hard to say what's really going on there,
Yeah. I want those trades to exist. I have tried and tried and tried to find like a trade where there can be some velocity on it. I thought that there was potential for that, for Solana to have a move back above 100. I was wrong. So I tried to buy this 85 to 87 ish. So it went below. I like these setups when you have like a mini breakdown and reclaim. So it did that here at the same time that it was, the rest of the market was starting to look okay. So I took that trade and then cut it for about a 8% loss. Because what it looks like now to me is that it's going to just fully capitulate and then have its moment. Like, this is the type of trade where I could see something like this, and I want to take that trade. I want to be able to participate in that if Solana or some of these layer ones go do something crazy. Amidst all of this, though,
you got to think the VCs who've been holding that since inception are just puking it, right? Because they don't care. They're up 1 billion %.
I think this is distribution in the 80s, and even though it's like some people that bought in the 200s are wrecked, right? Like, it's still distribution. It's profitable distribution for people that have held it for a long time. Absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah.
The one thing that has performed really, really well. Do you know what it is?
Luna? I don't know.
It is indeed Luna. But even Luna, to me, I don't know. I don't believe in the like macro, like the large divergence of trades lasting for too long. Like if it gets ugly, it can get real ugly, and that's my concern for Luna. If it closes this weekly, it made an all-time high this week, but if it closes this weekly without like a proper close as the high above 100, then it looks like kind of a distribution top type of thing. Again, some people who have more money than you and more exposure to this coin than you are happy to dump it for a massive profit. And
I mean, just look at that chart. It's insane.
yeah,
It's still up like 4,000%.
I mean, dude, it was, I know these are not fair to look at, but the end of 2020, so someone that's now long-term capital gains, they could have bought Luna on Binance for 30 cents, and they could have done it for months. They could have accumulated for months at 30 cents, and it's $100 now. So the measly public market 300x. Like, what? Take that off, or take that into linear, and puts it in some context for us. I never want to be the buyer in that scenario. Like I just can't do it. I don't care if it's outperforming. I can't do it. I can't be that person. I'm not built for that.
Yeah, and I have nothing to say other than that looks scary on the downside. It's like ADA before it broke down. I'm not saying Luna's going to break down, but
and we could be bullish on the tech. That's fine. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just looking at price, looking at relative valuations, and looking at the state of the market. It's a big yikes to me. I wish I was in the trade. Don't get me wrong. I wish I bought that dip. Could have bought it for $48 3 weeks ago. Could have doubled your money in a month. I was just asking this morning, like, what's the highly liquid double your money bet? And if I would have asked that a month ago and done Luna, then I'd be happy right now. I just am looking for the next one, not that one.
And ETH is arguably more choppy than BTC even. It's just looks gross. I don't know. You're seeing NFT activity just kind of dwindle quickly. You're seeing fees come down, which is more bearish than bullish, honestly. We always complain about high fees on ETH, but it shows that there's at least somebody there doing stuff, and that those have really come down.
High fees are only bad while you're in the moment of a bull market. When you have low fees, it's even worse.
Yeah, it's weird because on-chain activity is actually quite stable, but the fees and NFT activities come way down. And yeah, I don't know where this goes. Maybe it breaks up with BTC, but I'd be less confident. Sol to me looks like a descending triangle, so that looks like a bearish bias. Arguably, this stuff made June, July, and he did as well. We talked about that, so it's not like it's a slam dunk either way. But I don't know. It's tough to want to like long Sol until it breaks up, right? And it's tough to want to do anything here on ETH until it makes a decision.
Yep.
So yeah,
I have a real hard time not being in a trade, not catching the Pico bottom, all this stuff, and I just have to force myself into it, and it takes me getting chopped up a couple times to realize it. I talked about this literally a week ago. I talked about it on Monday on the Weekly Open. There is no rush, but that doesn't change my human animal sense of like
my lizard brain
from wanting to get in the market.
The last trade I took was on like February 14th, when this inverted head and shoulders thing didn't pan out. That was the last trade I took. Yeah, I'm in no rush at all. I'm gonna let it do its thing. Let it reveal its secrets.
Ties or TLS, whatever it says. Lizard brain or FOMO brain? They're the same thing. Same brain. Your lizard brain is the one that gets FOMO.
AVAX. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff just doesn't look compelling to me, like we've been saying over and over again.
So where is there a trade that looks good, Josh? That's what I want to know. Is there one in crypto at all?
I don't know. I'd just rather wait it out. Let the chop around. Let it chop up people like you over trading, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen one.
Badge.
I haven't seen one.
So I think I think we are nearing a bottom that you can more confidently, or like a place where you can more confidently get in. The difference between now and then could be like a 30% move, you know, and that's, like I said, not willing to tolerate. There have been times where we've bottomed around tax day, so that's only a month. The Dixie, which we've pointed at many times, is also hinting at this. If it is indeed a range trade and the Dixie's not going to go into some kind of like long-term price exploration, then historically it's topped out 102 to 103. It's at 98 right now, but it's on a almost a year-long uptrend. So the fact that Bitcoin has not completely died at a time while the Dixie does what normally causes Bitcoin to die, maybe there is significant upside. Maybe you get another push down into the mid-20s or something, worst case scenario, and that's the end. Off you go. It would also,
what event would help that? I don't even know, because
get it to the 20s.
No, what event would reverse this? Because right now we're finding strength based on kicking Russia off of the U.S. rails. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of reasons that could cause the Dixie to weaken. Additional stimulus.
Additional stimulus. This guy.
We're already talking. I mean, some European economies are getting tighter. Somebody had comments the other day that were quite hawkish. I can't remember who it was, what country it was. Meanwhile, in the U.S., they're already talking about potential gas supplemental stipends or whatever. So if oil goes to 150 plus and gas is $6-7, somebody on Twitter was like, it already is in California, and I'm like, well, y'all tax your stuff at like 100%. So talk to me somewhere where it's got normal taxes on gas. And where I live, it's like high threes. Maybe it's $4 now, but $5, $6, $7 a gallon gasoline in the U.S. And if the whole give us stimmy checks for gas thing happens, I could totally imagine that weakening the dollar.
Do you remember Cash for Clunkers?
Yeah, Cash for Clunkers. There were some good programs back in 2008, man.
I guess if we see that, though, I think it's just everybody's risk on again, and I don't know. I don't know what was the alternative to giving stimulus checks in COVID when we shut everything down,
Nothing. It was the better outcome. But you have to acknowledge that inflation is what comes out of that. Right?
Yeah, but I feel like there's people who, I guess they just didn't want to shut anything down, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I always hear, this is bad. It causes this. I never hear, this was our plan instead. This is what we should have done and would have done. I never hear that. So maybe it's just my own bubble, but
I think the response was reasonable for a while, but then it stayed, it like became unreasonable as it stuck around too long, like people are back to full employment or whatever, and they're still getting, a child tax credit or a stimulus check or something that was very beneficial for 6 months, but not 18 months. Now some people needed it for 18 months, but most people didn't. Most people were able to be employed again, but unemployment benefits continued for a very long time, to the degree that then it's like, okay, well, restaurants literally can't hire anybody because it's better to be unemployed than be in a restaurant washing dishes with a mask on. Like, nobody wants to do that. Like, it's and it's hard to tell people like, all right, it's time, because they're trying to preach safety at the same time. Don't know when the next variant or whatever is going to happen. And we're just notoriously late when we need to be nimble as a country. We waited too long to shut down. We waited way too long to reopen. And when all your benefit systems are still existing because you're technically not open, even though most of the country's like, well, screw you, we're going to do our normal thing now. But then they're still getting all these benefits. It's just like a perfect storm for that inflationary environment. And then also a lack of willingness to work in the industries that need workers the most, and all these things that have added up and piled up to make for the situation that we're in. And I think the thing that probably needs to happen now is Jay Powell needs to become more hawkish, right? Like they need to stick with rate hikes, because it's fine if inflation is high if the pace of inflation chills, right? Like if you go from 8 to 10%, that's bad. If you go from 8 down to 6 and kind of slowly work your way back down into 5 and 4 and whatever, then you're getting things in control. You're taking a little bit of the speculativeness out of the market. You end some of the like checks and stuff. That's a different type of stimulus, and that's not the Fed's capacity to do that. Plus hiking rates slightly, you prepare for when you actually need those tools again. You just don't really need those tools right now, but we have no tolerance for anything, any belt tightening, right, in America, and we need to be able to tolerate those things.
Yeah, I mean, they just kept rates too low too long. They kept the stimulus stuff going.
Should have been hiking for years. We should have been hiking from 2016 on, probably. Like after the earnings thing, remember the 2015, 2016 kind of peak earnings stuff? I don't know if you remember that. So the stock market stalled back then. They waited too long to raise then. And as soon as they started tightening, things got dicey immediately. This stuff back here. 2015 to 2016. It was like an earnings recession or something. I can't remember what they labeled it, something goofy. This was when the NASDAQ finally broke an all-time high, actually, when all this was done. And they should have been slowly raising all along. They did at some point in here. You had the volatility crisis that occurred. They started to raise, and it was such a shock to people that then they quickly stopped because the market freaked out. And then obviously COVID, but then again, you get to this realm, you should be doing it again. Not to say the S&P 500 is the economy, but using it in place of anything better at the moment. So despite having some downside, I think they should stay the course. They should just continue raising, just do 25 basis points every time.
Well, I heard 4 hikes now. It's gone from like 12 hikes down to 4 hikes.
They should they should do it for 2 years. Like they should at least raise it for the next 2 years in my mind.
Yeah, I got to do something because inflation isn't slowing down. We just had a CPI print yesterday and it's higher. So
yep.
What are you going to do? Your move, Jay Powell, central bankers, your move.
It's not, but that's the thing. It's not just their move, right? Because
but they helped us by keeping rates as low as they did for as long as they did, right?
Yeah. Well, and then meanwhile, the Senate's like holding his job over him, right? And the whole like confirmation hearing thing. They've not even confirmed him for his new term, so it's like almost incentivization to stay dovish. Yeah. Stay dovish. Stay dovish, but also fix inflation, Jay. No pressure. I don't envy his job. Do you?
No, but he needs to say, look, if I want to not be taken as a mockery in history books, then I know what I need to do. But I don't know. Like you said, if it was algorithmic, this would have been over and done with already,
Yeah.
Flew too close to the sun.
We flew too close to the sun. Let's leave it there.
I'm getting angry PMs about not talking about Zcash. So I think we have to talk about that. I want to talk about Algorand just real quickly. Massive falling wedge here. Quick trajectory. I don't know the emission rate. I don't know anything about this really. But something on a technical basis, probably worth watching. Just looks ugly. Looks like it could have a happening of its own there.
And then Zcash hit the 200-week moving average again and bounced off of it. But I don't know. It's hard to believe anything other than Barry's buying.
Yeah. I don't know. I have nothing to say about it.
Barry's buying. That's what's happening.
Sure.
It's up 50% this week though.
All right. I mean, did you see that Monero spike?
I did not. I would love to get in on one of these trades and it actually go up. I've traded Zcash profitably once back when I had much less money. I've had a large Zcash position this what was it, last year when it went up, late last year? And I was profitable for like 2 weeks and then it round tripped and I sold and then I was out again and disappointed by Barry.
There's this huge spike in Monero when Putin announced that ruble FX trades were canceled until like September or something. I don't know. It was really weird on the timing, but it was just funny to look at this. All retraced by now, but yeah.
It's just goofy scam markets.
Yeah, you guys have fun trading Zcash. I would
love to buy Zcash. I tell you, I would love to, as long as I know that there will be a forever bid and it's not one billionaire trying to push a narrative. That's what I need. I need the market to care about Zcash, not just Barry. But I encourage it. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Have a great weekend.
Monuments crumble in the blink of an eye.
Follow Josh on Carpe Noctem.
Easy river,
YouTube and stuff. He does videos.
it's just run dry. In a house of cards, I feel the breeze wound so tight I can barely